Hey, what's up everyone? OJ here. Welcome back to another video. And today we're going to be talking about the rumor that Nintendo will be bringing out Super Metroid, a remake of the game on the Nintendo Switch, in addition to Metroid Prime Trilogy HD in the next 2 fiscal years. So this is according to LeakyPandy, not Leaky Panda, like I last reported on them, I think last year or something like that, or earlier this year when they had a rumor, but LeakyPandy, like Pandy from Xenoblade Chronicles 2. So let's go ahead and get right into what LeakyPandy had to say here on the matter. Nintendo is planning 2 new Metroid titles that will release in the next 2 fiscal years respectively. One is a re-release of Metroid Prime Trilogy HD, which we did kind of know about. The second one is a Super Metroid remake that mimics Samus Returns in style and scope. So let's go ahead and break this down. First with Metroid Prime Trilogy HD. So this is something that's been rumored for a while now, right? We've had Nate from Direct Feed Games talk about it. We've had John from Spawnwave talk about it. It's something that many people in the industry have known is kind of just like around, but because of Metroid Prime 4 being delayed, because of kind of what's going on, it is suspected that is the reason why we have not seen it yet at this point. However, in the next 2 fiscal years, so the fiscal years runs from March to March of next year. So what LeakyPandy is saying here is that we're going to see one of these 2 games, either Metroid Prime Trilogy HD or Super Metroid Remake, from not at this point to March of next year. I'm guessing it's going to be Metroid Prime Trilogy HD. That's the game that we're going to see. Very similar to how Nintendo released, I don't know, like Bayonetta 1 and 2, and then whenever Bayonetta 3 comes out, that's the case. So I'm thinking maybe that's going to be the game, since that's been on the block longer, or we've known about that maybe for a bit longer. Now, the next game, in the next fiscal year, so that could release next year, or it could release the year after, and that would be the Super Metroid Remake. That's what I am guessing with this. Now, for those who don't know, Samus Returns, that was the Metroid game from the Game Boy. So Metroid 2, it was that game, but it was completely remade with new graphics, with new content, with kind of a little bit different layout, but the same maps, but different layouts. It was pretty much a brand new game, very similar to how Capcom did with Resident Evil 2. They just took a really old game and made the visuals so much better than what it was, and kind of rearranged things, added new options, added new combat, gameplay, and all that. Just made it a much better game, and that's what Samus Returns is. So that's what they're going to say with Super Metroid. Now, for those who don't know, I absolutely adore 2D Metroid. 2D Metroid is what I like more than 3D Metroid. So if Nintendo was to make Super Metroid and remake that in the same scope and style that they did with Metroid Samus Returns. And when I say scope and style, remember, like scope or style, that doesn't mean the same graphics. Obviously, it'd be on the Nintendo Switch, so the graphics would be much better, but that 2D slick aesthetic, I don't know what they'd go with, more of like a fusion style, but looking a lot better, or more of like a realistic style, kind of like how they did with Samus Returns. But either way, I'd be completely down for that, like completely down for that. I think that Metroid, or 2D Metroid, is really good. I like it more than the 3D, like I did state. But Metroid Prime Trilogy HD, that is a very interesting one, because what are they going to do with that completely? Now, if you guys remember Metroid Prime Trilogy, that game, this would be the 3rd release of that game, because it originally came out on the Wii. That was the original system that it came out on. And remember, those were reprints of the GameCube games. So they just took the GameCube games, ported them over to the Wii, removed the regular controls for the game, and added Wii pointer controls. You couldn't go back to the regular standard controls, even though the Wii supported GameCube controllers. Well, most Wii units supported GameCube controllers, and you could do that no problem. They took that out. And then what they did is they took that experience and then they brought it over to the Wii U, to where you can digitally download it. So then you had Metroid Prime Trilogy, and technically I guess it was upscaled to 1080p on your television, but the games weren't actually in HD, just the 480p upscaled on there. So this will be the first time that we're actually getting it in HD. They'd actually go back and rework the games and make sure that they actually look better, higher resolution, and they'd have to add back in regular controls, because how else would you play it in handheld mode? So I think that it'd probably be the most definitive experiences of the original Prime trilogy. So Metroid Prime 1, 2, and 3, you'd get the definitive experiences because you probably still have some IR or at least at the minimum gyroscope aiming there, like Splatoon or something like that. And then on top of that, you'd also have the regular controls too. And having that type of experience anywhere that you want, that's actually really cool. I've never played a Prime game in any type of portable fashion. There's actually never been a mainline Metroid Prime game that you can play portable. I'm not counting Metroid Prime Pinball. That's not a mainline one, even though there's a story or whatever there. And also Metroid Prime Federation Force, not really counting that either. So this is the first time you'll be able to play Prime 1, 2, and 3 anywhere that you want. That's really appealing to lots of people. And on top of that, those games run at 60 frames per second. I'm guessing that they'd keep that and then also have it at 1080p. Those would look amazing. They might look like a current gen-ish type of game on that smaller screen of the Nintendo Switch. So I'm excited to see what that ultimately turns out looking and how it plays and kind of what they do with it, because it is really good. But to me, the big one here, Super Metroid Remake. Super Metroid is my favorite Metroid game of all time. I don't think there's another Metroid game I like more than Super Metroid. And that's 3D Metroid, that's 2D Metroid. And if they were to make Super Metroid and they were able to buff it up to the status in terms of what they did with Samus Returns, that would be huge for Metroid fans. I mean, because many people consider Super Metroid to be the best Metroid of all time. And if you want to separate the two between 2D and 3D, many people still feel Super Metroid is that Metroid game, despite there being other ones that did some really cool stuff. Obviously, you have Metroid Zero Mission, you had Metroid Fusion, you have Samus Returns. There's a lot of great 2D Metroid games. But man, Super Metroid was that game back in 1994 that really just blew us away visually and atmosphere-wise, gameplay-wise. I mean, there was just so much stuff that game did. The level design was absolutely phenomenal. So if they can bring that back, that would be really cool. And another big thing here people are probably wondering is like, okay, well, who's making which one? I would guess that Retro Studios did Metroid Prime Trilogy HD because we haven't really been hearing about anything that they've been doing. So I'm guessing that it's Retro Studios doing that. Now, when it comes to Super Metroid Remake, this is assuming that this is all right, guys, okay? This is assuming that this is all right. I would guess that it's Mercury Steam. And the reason why I say Mercury Steam, and for those who don't know, Mercury Steam are the developers who did Samus Returns on the Nintendo 3DS, and they have went radio silent. I have not heard about anything that they've done. Metroid Samus Returns did well enough for them on the Nintendo 3DS as a late title for $40. So I think it did well enough, and 2D Metroid is something that they're very passionate about. That team, Mercury Steam, is very passionate about Metroid. They're very passionate about old school styles of game. And you also have to remember that team, Mercury Steam, in terms of the ones that did Samus Returns, they also did the 3DS Castlevania game that Nintendo and Konami had a little bit of an exclusive deal on for a bit as well. And that was more of like a Metroidvania type of experience as well. So to me, I think that they're the perfect team in order to get that done, just because they love working on those styles of games. They've gotten better and better with each of their releases, and they know about it. Mercury Steam, they also worked on the Castlevania Lords of Shadow series even before that. They date back in terms of Metroidvania, Castlevania, whatever the case is. They know how to get it done, and they've been doing a very good job, especially with Samus Returns. That was one of the best remakes that I've ever played. It was a really good remake of the game. It was just on the Nintendo 3DS, late in the life. Everyone wanted it on Switch. So this is perfect. People have been saying that they want 2D Metroid on the Nintendo Switch, and we know that Metroid Prime 4 is going to take a while to come out, right? Games aren't made overnight. If they restarted development this year, which we did get that message, it's going to take them minimum 2.5 to 3 years in order to get that game done. You're not going to get it in a year and a half or maybe even 2 years. I mean, there's not an established base. This would be the first true, real HD Metroid game, new one, not Metroid Prime Trilogy where you're porting over games, but actual new HD game. We didn't get any real new one on the Wii U, so this would be the first one ever in terms of officially from Nintendo. So that's a big deal. That's a big deal, and that's not going to be something that's going to be easy to do or take a small amount of time. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be like Breath of the Wild where it's like 5 years and we're going to see it cross-gen or anything like that, but it is going to take them a number of years to get that done. So maybe we see a trailer next year or something like that, the end of next year, but it is going to take a little bit of time. And in the meantime, we can get the Metroid Prime Trilogy HD. We can get a Super Metroid remake from Mercury Steam. Why not? They did a good job with Samus Returns. So to me, this is the probably best case scenario for Metroid fans out there in order to kind of tide us over until we see some bigger Metroid Prime 4 out there. So to me, this is great. This is a fantastic type of move if Nintendo decided to do this, and I'm looking forward to it. We have the Game Awards coming up pretty soon here, so maybe we see something with Metroid Prime Trilogy at the Game Awards. Maybe not. I mean, I talked about that last year and kind of got bodied on that one. So I don't want to sit there and say it's going to be 100% or anything like that, but we'll have to wait and see what's going on. But I would not be surprised if we see Metroid Prime Trilogy at the Game Awards, or if we see it early next year, maybe in the Direct or something like that. So what are you guys' thoughts on this when it comes to Metroid Prime Trilogy HD, and then also Super Metroid Remake in the next 2 fiscal years for Nintendo? So that could be by the end of next year, both of these games will be released. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Go ahead and check out the links in the description below. We got Facebook and Twitter. Go ahead and give us a like and a follow on our social media. Hit that like button if you did like this video. Let us know you guys want more content like this going forward in the future. And subscribe to PlayerEssence for latest RPG, Japanese, and Nintendo gaming news. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.